today, there are people that believe in demon possession. There are people still writing books about people being taken over, not being able to control themselves. And a lot of the pictures that they use are given in the Bible as far as how the person's out of control. The person isn't in control of himself or herself. In this case, it's first one is the young, the unclean spirit cast out the young boy from Matthew 17, Mark 9, and also Luke 9. We're going to read those verses first, and then we'll go to the second one. Again, it's very similar healing, but it's amazing to me how less, if you compare the readings of both of these, how many verses are in the first and how many verses are in the second of the actual healing of these conditions. Sandra, if you would go ahead and start off with Matthew 7:17, start 14 through 24.
When they were coming from multitude, but making a certain man, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is lunatic and sore beggars, for all time falling into the fire and all into the water. And I brought him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him. Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me. And Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. Then came the disciples to Jesus apart and said, Why could not we cast him out? And Jesus said unto them, Because of your unbelief, verily I say unto you, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, you shall say unto this mountain, Remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you.
Okay. One key word there in this reading that's a little different than the other two readings. Maybe I'm just kind of dwelling on this a little bit more. Verse 15, the word lunatic. Where does that come from? I'll give you a hint. That's not full of money. Married to a teacher long enough. I heard discussions about kids. Don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard that you can tell it's a full moon because the kids are acting wild, crazy. But in this case, in that time, they didn't know what was going on. They knew it was something that was unusual. They knew it was something that, maybe every full moon it got worse. We don't know. But the term lunatic comes from lunar, and usually maybe a monthly occurrence, but they were crazy. They were out of control. And he asked for Jesus to have mercy on my son, for he is a lunatic, sore vexed. He talks about oftentimes it falls into the fire, and oftentimes in the water, just out of control everywhere. What does the saying, the reading there in Mark, this condition from Mark 9, 14 through 29, what does it say there? So let's pick that up.
When he came to his disciples, he saw a great multitude about them, and described the question with them. And straightway all the people, when they beheld him, were greatly amazed, and running to him saluted him. And he asked the scribes, What question ye with him? And one of the multitude answered and said, Master, I have brought unto thee my son, which hath a dumb spirit. And wheresoever he taketh him, he teareth him, and he foameth, and he gnasheth with his teeth, and pineth away. And I spake to thy disciples that they cast him out, and they could not. And he answered him and said, O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him unto me. And they brought him unto him, and when he saw him, straightway the spirit tear him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed upon him. And he asked his father, How long is it ago since this came unto him? And he said, Of a child. And oftentimes it hath cast him into the fire and into the waters to destroy him. But if thou canst do anything, have compassion on us and help us. Jesus said unto him, If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. And straightway the father of the child cried out, and said with Jesus saw that people came running together. He rebuked the foul spirit, and saying unto him, Thou dumb and deaf spirit, I charge thee, come out of him, and enter no more into him. And the spirit cried, and rent him sore, and came out of him, and he was as one dead, insomuch that many said, He is dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. And when he was come into the house, his disciples asked him privately, Why could not we cast him out? And he said unto them, This kind can come forth by nothing but by prayer and fasting.
Appreciate that. A lot of the questions on the day sheet come from this reading, so I'll point out the things that I thought were, I guess, interesting, were different. But same occasion, obviously, we can read the similarities there, and then the last reference there from Luke 9, straight up verse 37 through 43. Someone pick that up for us.
Then it came to pass that on the next day, when they would come down from the hill, much people met him. And behold, a man of the company cried out, saying, Master, I beseech thee, look upon my son, for he is mine only child. And lo, a spirit taketh him, and he suddenly crieth out, and it appeareth him that he foameth again, and bruising him partly departed from him. And I besought thy disciples to cast him out, and they could not. And Jesus answered, saying, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you, and suffer you? Bring thy son hither. And as he was yet a coming, the devil threw him down and tear him. And Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit, and healed the child, and delivered him again to his father. And they were all amazed at the mighty power of God. But while they wondered everyone at all things which Jesus did, he said unto his disciples.
Okay. I want to go ahead and pick up the last verse because of people's reaction to the healing here of this young man, and some of the questions that pulled out of this reading. If you look at the first one, I guess, where I did a summary kind of. It says the Father asked Jesus, blank on my blank. Have mercy. Exactly. Have mercy on my son, for he is a lunatic and my only son. I pulled that one from the last reading, I think, here in Luke, verse 38. It's significant if you think about the last week's lesson, maybe. I think it was last week's lesson. The widow woman's son was dead. Jesus had compassion on her. And then here, this man had compassion on us and on my son, he's a lunatic. And help us, one of the words that I think he said he comes out of. From number 2, it says, from that very blank, the blank was cured. Verse 18 of the first reading there in Matthew.
Hour of the child.
That very hour, the child was cured. This goes back to, I guess, kind of in the back of my mind that this happens instantly. Last week I couldn't really back that up with the reading because there was a difference there. And, after reading the commentary, it talked about how it was more for the education purposes and the teaching purposes of the apostles that, right now you may not be able to see clearly, but in the future you will. And he was healed. And the end result was that he could see clearly last week. And likewise also the apostles, when they were endowed with the Holy Spirit, could see clearly and understood all things that he needed to understand and view all things. And at this time, they were still learning. There's a couple of phrases in this reading that Jesus, he points out that kind of being steady here. But why did Jesus say the disciples would cast out this devil? Verse 20. Unbelief. These were the disciples who had been with Jesus from his beginning of his ministry. All these miracles that we're reading about, stated about, they were there. Plus, do some of these same miracles. And yet, how could they have unbelief? It's kind of jumps out at me that they should have all the belief in the world.
Seems like there were other, not just their unbelief, but the belief of the Father, whether he believed or not. Also, in the Mark version, he says, this kind can come forth by nothing but by prayer and fasting.
This was a different. This was kind of the emphasis there, and the phrase that Jesus used referring to the perverse generation. How long, basically, will I be with you, be able to do these things for you, and you still don't believe? I think you had a good point there. I think the Father's confession coming up, he talks about he makes a total commitment, if you will, to talking to Jesus there in the reading of Luke. Mustard seed that Jesus references, is it a very large seed or a very small seed compared to others? Small. Very small seed. And the plant, compared to the others, is it a large seed plant or a small plant? Large. I think the references somewhere was that the bird can live on it, maybe one of the, maybe crossing some references. But anyway, it's a big plant once it comes up. But it starts out as very, very small. And Jesus pointing out, if you have the faith, even as small as the mustard seed, you can do mighty things and mighty works. I think that's one of the things that, all the references before, a lot of the people give great faith. The centurion had great faith, or the woman, another one, talking about how great her faith was. And then here it's like, if you have just a little bit of faith, so that even the grain of a mustard seed, you move mountains. So the power, I guess, of knowing God, knowing Jesus, knowing you're being obedient to Jesus. All those things fit together. Ultimately, we can survive this world and go to the next. Ready, willing, and able, if you think about it, with God, Christ's help. Number 5, Jeremy just filled out this one for us. What 2 things did Jesus say were needed to cast out this kind of demon? Prayer and fasting. We talk about fasting a little bit, but in all these references, I think all the references we've talked about, it was given to make people closer to God. Focus more on God and less on the physical. A lot of the references don't say a lot about it, but it was a common practice to basically deny the physical body and draw closer to Christ, draw closer to God. Maybe even in our daily lives, it might be good for us to think about all the blessings we have, how easy it is for us daily. I can walk in any store in Springfield and buy anything basically I need to eat or want to eat. That wasn't the case then. And physically, that's one thing. Spiritually, being able to purchase the knowledge that we have in Christ. That goes without price. Like the commercial said, that's priceless. And we are blessed by that. Going back to Luke's reference there from Luke 20, back over here, Luke 9, starting at verse 22. This was where I took several of the things in these reading to fill in the blanks, because it seemed like it was the conversation, like Mary talked about, between the Father and Christ. There's some points that he picked out. And let me pick those back up. Verse 22. It's the wrong reference. Hold on a second. Mark. Yeah, Mark 22. Mark 9, 22. All these ran together last time, a little bit, obviously. In verse 22, it says, the man asked Jesus to have blank on us and blank us. A little bit different than what was in Matthew.
Compassion and help.
Have compassion on us and help us. The other reference, I think, has mercy on us. Very similar. If you think about someone that has the power, and you know he has the power to do these things, basically you're begging for his help. And then the following verse, Jesus asked him, if thou canst believe, all things are possible. Very similar to another phrase, all things are possible. I had another phrase I was going to look up through later about the unbelief, and I didn't do that. But here this man, Jesus questions him, if thou canst believe. And we go back to, I think, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how that in most of these occasions where Jesus is speaking to the people, you heard of me, you see the miracles, and you want me to help you. And Jesus is more than willing to help. And most of the time the people do believe. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't. It's almost a condition, we talk about being conditions of faith, an example for us today. If we believe, if we obey, we can be healed spiritually.
Matthew 21:21 says, Jesus said to them, verily I say to you, if you have faith and doubt not, ye shall not only do this which is done with fig tree, but it also shall say to this mountain, be thou moved and cast into the sea, it shall be done. It's the power of faith that drove the mountain away or the tree or whatever.
I think that was one of the phrases I was looking for next week too. But whatsoever you ask in prayer, believing, you shall receive. Obviously, that's one thing I always still need to work on. My prayers, if I'm not careful, get real repetitive, and especially should never get casual. I guess is one of the phrases that I don't want to get in my head when I'm doing a prayer anywhere, anytime. It's exceptional to have that ability to approach God in Christ through prayer. Moving mountains, again, a reference for if thou believest, thou canst. And then here, and doubt not. That's that doubt not a I guess key phrases in my mind. They've seen these miracles over and over and over, and yet in the back of their mind they still have some doubt. And Jesus is trying to teach that we don't get to the point where we don't have that faith that will overshadow that doubt. Take it over. Verse 24 from the reference there. The Father said, blank, I believe.
Lord, I believe, help thou my unbelief.
This is a phrase that I was going to try to, it sounded familiar, but I don't know if it's just because it's in these three references. I thought of it more. But whenever you're there with the Lord, and you say, I believe, help thy unbelief. Basically, give me more of this faith, more of this believing, more of this understanding. And the Father, of course, helping, asking for himself again, for himself and his son. Number 9, verse 25 says, when the demon left the young man and tear his body, he was dead. And Jesus also brought him back alive like the widow's son. True or false? It's false. Added a little bit to that one. It looked like he was dead. Some of the people said he was dead, but it's not referred to Jesus raising him from the dead as a quote, so I didn't believe that he died actually. I think he was either he fainted, passed out, whatever you want to call it. I mean, he's been beaten up by the Spirit for a long time. and at the exit, showed drainage of everything he had physically. But either way, when the demon left, he was healed. And then Luke 9:28, it says that this was also the 8th day after the high Passover feast, and only Peter, James, and John were with him to see the healing. True or false? This is also false. I've got several different things and several different verses that are close to that reading tied together. What had happened just before this healing? They went up to the mountain for what? Jesus and Peter, Andrew, and John. They did go up to the mountain to witness what? Transfiguration. I was going to use today's lesson, voices out of heaven, and refer to transfiguration and God speaking. This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased. Hear ye him. And then also the reference whenever Christ was baptized, very similar, in whom I'm well pleased. But Jesus, above all, above Moses, above Elias, any of the prophets, and he was transfigured before. The 8th day, the first day, was also references to a couple of references before the transfiguration. And then high Passover had nothing to do with this reading. The disciples, it was more than Peter. They came down from the mountain and seeing the multitude is one of the references. So there were a great number of people there that saw this, not just Jesus and his three, if you will, apostles. Any comments so far on these first couple of verses? First 10 verses.
I think for me, when that verse 24, that's kind of changed the way I pray too. Especially when I'm reading the Bible, we don't have people here, so we can't help our unbelief in person. But I know, feel like obviously I have to believe everything that I need to help.
Definitely. And it's, every time I see the word doubt, it jumps in my head too. So, where am I at? Why am I still doubting? The power of prayer. Never let us doubt that for sure. Being Christians, it's a great blessing.
It came to my mind that if you use the word casual, don't ever want to get into being casual about our prayer life and that sort of thing. Yeah. You look at what happened to this man and his child, and what their situation was, and the intensity that he was dealing with Christ as far as appealing to them and all of that. It just, if we're not careful, that we're in a world now that everything's casual. It used to be casual Friday nights, casual 7 days a week. There's no there's no intensity in our lives about anything, and putting forth energy. And I should utilize too much like that. What's the difference? Is there a difference? Is it just people with personalities, or is it a determination of something that some people can look at the sunset and just be overwhelmed with it and just think how great it is. And, some of the rest of us will look at it and say, well, there'll be another one tomorrow. There was one yesterday. But with some, it brings on, you look at the heavens and you see the glory of God and that sort of thing. And the intensity that comes with that is something that we make a choice on. We can pass it off, or we can, choose to look at it from the standpoint of, this revelation of God, not in a sense of revelation. It does heighten our intensity as far as God is being there and that sort of thing. This guy was in a bad place, so we could see his intensity. But after the healing, where was he as far as the Lord was concerned at that point? The same is true with us when we become Christian. There's an intensity there, but the latter days are decreases as far as that goes as we go on through life because of all the other things going on around us. We have to work with intensity as opposed to being casual.
Yeah, I can remember the references being was it red in the morning, red at night? Used to be old sailors, but it's biblical. And you determine by looking at the skies, what it's going to do. Sunsets, sunrises, very beautiful. And if you're not careful, like you said, I'm not a morning person. I mean, I couldn't tell you what the last sunrise looked like that I saw. But sunsets, oh yeah. Nighttime, I can tell you what the wind looked like at 3 in the morning, but I can't tell you what the sunrise looked like. But they're the beauties that we have, just, they should get us out of that casualness, realizing the awesomeness of God, the power of God, power of prayer. We're talking about that here. If we can tap into that, being Christians, and if we're not careful, we will let that slip. Definitely keep working on it. The next verse we're going to talk about is found in two references. The first one is in Matthew 12 and then in Luke 11. Someone flip over to Matthew 12 and read that reference there. This one is a little bit longer, I think, than what we just read. And it's amazing. Some of the things that I got out of this one was the lack of information that we got about the miracle itself. And then Jesus turns it around and knowing their thoughts, he teaches. He uses this as a teaching. And this may have been a turning point in his ministry. Of course, we know he's not going to live forever. He is going to be crucified. He starts talking about returning to Jerusalem, and the apostles are saddened, but it's a fact. This is the plan of God. This will happen. From Matthew 12, starting with 22, read down through, not 99. I never went back to put that in right. Start with verse 22, and I'll stop you when we get finished. Please. Start with verse 22.
Then Robertson and one possessed of the devil, blind and dumb, came on him, insomuch that the blind and dumb was making song. And all the people were amazed and said, "Is not this Sunday?" And when the Pharisees heard it, they said, "This fellow does not cast out the devils, but by the love and rest of the devils." And Jesus knew their thoughts and said unto them, "Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then stand? And if I and cast out devils, your children cast them out, therefore they shall be your judges. But if I cast out devils by the Spirit of God, the kingdom of God is come unto you. Or else how can one enter to a strong man's house and spoil his goods except you first bind the strong man, and then you spoil his house? He that is not with me is against me, and he that gathers not with me is scattered abroad.
That's good. That's 30 is where I want to stop. That kind of gets to the stopping point and the thought about this one. And then Luke's reference is from Luke 11, 14 through 26. Someone get that for us.
He was casting out a devil, and it was done. And it came to pass, when the devil was gone out, the dumb spake, and the people wondered. But some of them said, He casts out devils through Beelzebub, the chief of the devils. And others seeking him saw to him a sign from heaven. But he, knowing their thoughts, said unto them, Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and a house divided against a house falleth. If Satan also be divided against himself, how shall his kingdom stand? Because he say that I cast out devils through Beelzebub. And if I by Beelzebub cast out devils, by whom do your sons cast them out? Therefore shall they be your judges. But if I with the finger of God cast out devils, no doubt the kingdom of God is come upon you. When a strong man keepeth his palace, his goods are in peace. But when a stronger than he shall come upon him and overcome him, he taketh from him all his armor, wherein he trusteth, and divideth the spoils. He that is not with me is against me, and he that gathereth not with me is scattered. When the unclean spirit is gone out of man, he walketh through dry places, seeking rest, and finding none, and saith, I will return unto my house whence I came out. And when he cometh, he findeth it swept and garnished. Then goeth he, and taketh to him 7 other spirits, more wicked than himself, and they enter in and dwell there. The last state of that man is worse than the first.
Thank you. Appreciate that reading. We, a little bit of some differences with some of the same phrases. I think it's interesting to look at the things that Jesus did here. And we're not told a whole lot about this person other than he was casting out the devil, and it was a dumb spirit that came to pass as the devil was gone out the dumb spade. And the people wondered. Very little information about who or what that person was. How long he'd had it, and in the previous reading, since he was a youth. A lot more detail, a lot more information. But in this case, the Holy Spirit didn't want to dwell so much on that, but start looking at the reaction, I guess, of the people being amazed and wondered and asked in their hearts things that were untrue, and they focused on those. Number 11, it says, these two phrases, blank said Jesus was casting out devils by the name of blank, the blank of blank. Who said that Jesus was casting out? The Pharisees, our favorite group here. They're getting more and more powerful, more and more worried about Jesus, more and more concerned that their whole religious basis, if this is the Christ, and they should be following. If this is the true Son of God, our time is up. We should follow him. And they didn't see it. And he cast out devils in the name of who? Beelzebub. The prince of devils. I think it's one of the phrases, or demons, I'm not sure. But that was the reading there. And then Jesus goes into teaching about the algebra against the self. We know that that's true, either spiritual or physical. It won't stand. Can't sustain itself. Number 12. This is the only time a blind person is healed without Jesus touching their eyes or making them watch them. True or false? We'll take a little bit of research, but I'll tell just by my mind, this is not the only time that the blind were healed without Jesus touching. I didn't reference it, but we talk about all the miracles that Jesus performed, the people that were touching just the hem of his garment were healed, the multitudes that were made whole. There are probably many cases of people being healed of different diseases without any actual contact with Jesus that we're not told about. So I would lean a little to that would be false also, but not definitive, because I didn't use all the other evidence. In my mind, I said and he healed them all. Anything goes. He could have spoken the word. He could have touched each one. Don't know. Probably should not put that in there. Number 13, Jesus teaches us that we are either blank him or blank him. Just two cases. No middle ground. Can't straddle the fence. You're either with him or against him. Either you're gathering with him or scattering. That's the only two cases. You're either today's world and today's society, they're able to straddle the fence. But here, you're either A or B. You're either with Christ or you're not. I think that's something that we all need to keep close to our heart, especially in today's world. Number 14 says these two verses contain all the details about the actual miracle. The rest of the text, Jesus is teaching about the Pharisees and others that would not believe. Number 15, Matthew 12:23 points out that the the people were, I think Eric read this one, amazed. In both readings, Jesus knew their thoughts. After the people saw them, they were amazed and then began to ask about what power he did this. The last one for today's reference is from what Trina read, I think, about the seven spirits more evil than the first. It says, this is the only reference Jesus made to the latter being worse than the first. Please explain the seven spirits being more evil than himself. This is not the first or only case where Jesus referred to this being worse. If you remember, one of the first miracles we did, basically, I think it was maybe one of the demons. I'm not sure. I didn't do my reference there either, but it was, I think it was earlier, one of the early miracles. I think we went to show himself to the priest and basically be careful lest something worse come upon you. Then at that time, we talked about how the disease and miracle that took away that suffering, something worse, eternal death. That's the key. When all this gets wrapped up and we have it recorded, we read it, it should strengthen. It should keep us on that right track and keep us together, not scattered, and keep us with him and not against him.
John 9, when he healed the man on the line, and he came and found him, he said, go and send no more of us the worst thing come upon you.
I think that is it, because that phrase, and also help them unbelief, was another key phrase that I didn't look up. Both of those.
Peter talks about the dogs and the swine going back. It's worse for them than it was learning the truth.
It's going to be right there.
It's John 5:14, where he healed the man at the pool of Bethesda.
Okay. Cool. Okay. John 5:14. I was looking for the conversation with in John 10. Was there, thought, the Son of God. He said, who is he? Did I believe on him? So John, said 14?
5:14.
5:14. Jesus found in the temple, behold, thou art made whole. Sin no more, lest the worst thing come upon you. That is the reference. John 5:14. So there is a worse way, no matter how physically abused or damaged this could be, if you lose your soul, it's a whole lot worse than anything that can happen to your physical life. Appreciate the reading, appreciate your comments, and we'll take off next week with tax collection. I'm sure it's a popular subject, but it's interesting how this one gets paid. Thank you again for being here.